All right, everyone. I just want to take a few minutes to go over the Delta math. I think the first section should be pretty straightforward, but the second two might give us some trouble. So I just want to go through a few questions in each. So for this first section, it's just asking you to identify the slope. So just be careful and read whether it wants parallel or perpendicular. So this one asks for perpendicular. Okay, so that means whatever the slope of this line is, remember perpendicular, we need to do the negative reciprocal. So we need to change the sign and we need to flip it. Okay, so this is in standard form, so I can use my shortcut. So whatever's in front of the x, so here it's invisible one. So always change the sign and then divide by what's in front of the y. So in front of the y, we have a negative 6. Okay, so the negatives cancel here, so my slope is just 1 over 6. Okay, so if it was parallel, I want the same slope, so I would just type in 1 over 6, but this says perpendicular, so I need to change the sign. So I need to make it negative, since it's positive, and then 1 over 6 becomes 6 over 1. So I could type in 6 over 1, or just 6 divided by 1 is just 6. So my slope would be negative 6. Okay, so you could use the shortcut. These are all going to be in standard form. So do the shortcut. If it's parallel, just keep it the same, perpendicular, change the sign and flip it. Okay, so for this one, we'll do one more. In front of the x is a 5, so negative 5. So what's in front of the x divided by what's in front of the y, just change the sign at the top, over negative 2. Okay, so just make sure you change the sign of what's in front of the x when you're doing the shortcut. So once again, the negatives cancel. So this would be 5 over 2. Okay, so if it was parallel, I would just keep the same slope, but this one's also perpendicular. So if I flip it, it becomes 2 over 5. Again, this one's positive because the negatives cancel, so I would make it negative. So negative 2 over 5 would be my answer. Okay, some of these there's a lot of perpendicular. Um, there's a lot. Okay, so some of these are parallel, so just be careful which one to ask for. Okay, I think the second one was causing some trouble. So for the second topic, it's asking you to graph. So um, you should be doing the slopes first, or do this part first and then graph the line. So here it's asking about parallel. So you want identify the parallel slope. So always start by identifying the slope of this line. Okay, so for this line, so remember for slope, you want to choose any 2 points and then count the rise over the run. So anywhere it hits evenly. So if I zoom, you could zoom in on your computers. Pi 92 points where it hits evenly. I think here the y-intercept, that's definitely even. So there's a point there. And then here here as well. Okay, so to go from left point to right point, so I have to go up to over one. So you're going up to the right one. So always to the right. So if you pick any 2 points, you're going up to and then over one. So the slope would be 2. Okay, so this slope has a line of 2. Okay, so it asks you to identify to graph a parallel line. So parallel lines have to have the same slope. So our line would also have the slope of 2. Okay, so you could choose any point on the graph. As long as it has a slope of 2, it'd be parallel. So you could pick any point at all, so any random point. So as long as you up to over 1, so just drag the point up to over 1, we can see we in fact do have parallel lines. So you could do any, there's an infinite amount of answers. So if you pick any point, go up to over 1, and you create your parallel line. So as long as they have the same slope, you're going to be parallel. Let's look at a perpendicular one. So something like this. Okay, so it's asking for a perpendicular line. So always start by identifying the slope of the original. So if I zoom in here, pick any 2 points. So I think these are all points. So if I go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, this has a slope of negative 1. Okay, so negative 1. Okay, so for perpendicular, remember we have to change the sign and flip it. So this is negative, so this should be positive, and then this is just 1 over 1. So if I flip 1 over 1, it just becomes 1 over 1. So I need a slope with a line. I need a line with a slope of 1. So if I pick any point, you can start anywhere. As long as I go up 1 over 1, so positive slope up 1 over 1, you can see we have that perfect right angle there. Okay, so you could you can start anywhere, just go up 1 over 1, and you should see that perfect right angle there. Okay, do you want to talk about horizontal and vertical? I think these might give you, yeah, some horizontal and vertical lines. So here, so horizontal line, remember, like slope dude, if I'm 0, this is 0 fun, right? So this has a slope of 0 because it's flat. So if I want a perpendicular line to make that right angle, I would need a vertical line. I have to go straight up and down. So the only issue with that is if I have a slope of 0, remember, any whole number is over 1, right? If I flip it to do the reciprocal, the 0 goes to the bottom, right? So remember, we can't divide by 0. So this is where I get the undefined. So if I try to do the reciprocal of a slope of 0, we get undefined, which makes sense because undefined is the vertical line, right? When he falls down the hill, so undefined. So these are indeed perpendicular. So, and there's a button for undefined, so you just click undefined. So vertical and horizontal lines, just like the axes, like the X and Y axis, make the right angle here, are always perpendicular. So you might run into some zero and undefined, but those will always be perpendicular. And once again, you can do any horizontal line as long as you do, sorry, any vertical line, um, you always have that right angle there. Okay, and then just to briefly look at the last topic. So for this topic, okay, so it's asking you, it's multiple choice, so it's asking you either parallel or perpendicular. So if it, some of these will be in standard form or the answers will be in standard form. So for those, you could use the shortcut. So just to go over this one, in front of the x, we have a 7, so change the sign of that. Divide by, in front of the y, we have a 2. Okay, so the slope of this line is -7/2. Okay, so this one wants a line that's parallel. Okay, so we need a line with the same -7/2. So if I look at all my options, this one has the slope of -7/2. Remember, the b could be anything. I could start anywhere, but as long as they're the same slope, these will be parallel. Okay, so if I wanted perpendicular, I would make it positive and then flip it, so 2/7. So this one is perpendicular. Okay, so this one would be my answer if it asked for perpendicular, but it asked for parallel, so I would just choose this one here. Okay, and sometimes all the answers might be, like if I look one in standard form, so then like this one, -2/3. So if you want parallel, you need to find which one of these has a slope of -2/3. So you could just use your shortcut for each of these. Whichever one is -2/3, that would be your answer because parallel would be the same slope.